Okay, welcome. Welcome. This is the second. Oh, it's not going to let me record. Yes, if I go over here, it will record on this computer. Okay, so we're on YouTube and we're recording this so that we all have it. So it's just us that's going to have the link to this class. So nobody else is going to have it. It's going to be a private. Wait a minute. It's going to be a private link. Why did it go on this? Anyway, okay. Okay. So there we go. So, let's see. How did everybody do with um, with hello, Marissa, with the sacred? I heard from a couple of people how they did with the sacred rituals. Janice, do you want to?
Yeah, I couldn't figure out how to get to, of course, the because we were supposed to post it on the Mary Magdalene. Oh, I see. I should have looked at that link. You're at the community group.
Okay. Yeah, the community group link.
Okay. So, well, I wrote it down.
Okay. So just for the next time, you can just click that. You can click it right from the email. You can, the email that I send out, just click it right from the email. It'll take you, it'll open another tab. And you'll be able to get in there.
Okay.
And answer the week 2 question.
Okay.
And then we're all good. So there's Una. Hi, Una. We're recording, but it's just us that's going to see this. So
okay.
We're
Thank
good.
You. Hello.
I'm there's possibly 2 other people that are coming, so we'll see how that goes. But I'm going to go ahead and sing us in. Does everybody have a copy of the lyrics? Let me show you what lyrics I'm talking about, because if you do, then I don't have to keep stopping sharing the screen. So this is what we're doing tonight. We've got Mary Magdalene holding an egg. We're going to hopefully tell that story. So everybody has this printed out. We can sing this. I don't have to show it. Thumbs up if you've got this printed out. Yay. Okay. So next week, have it printed out, and then we don't need to have it up here. Did people print this one out, or at least write down lamb, bam, ram, yam, ham, Okay. So good. All right. So next week I won't have to show that, but I'll show it this week. You guys all did the week 1 questions, so you guys are awesome. We talked about this, and did everybody copy this song? So I have it now listed where it's actually going to come up. This song just before the meditation that Reverend Millie Landis used to have us all sing. So make sure that that's printed out, unless, of course, you know it by heart. And then, of course, we've got this song that a lot of us know by heart. And if you don't know it by heart yet, then you can copy this one too. So that's the idea. Then I won't have to stop and share screen next week, because we'll all have the lyrics. But I just thought I've got to put them in here this week, even though they're not in your handout. They're in your first week handout if you want to go back and get it. So here's Calling in the 7 Directions. Okay, I'm going to pull this in. Okay. So you can stand and face east. And here we go. Spirits of the east and inspiration, Archangel Raphael, please come. Spirits of the Archangel Gabriel, please come. Spirits of the North, Mother clearing spirit, Archangel Uriel, please come. Spirits of below, Mother of potentiality, Archangel Sandalphon, please come. Spirits of above, for the sky perspective change, Archangel Raphael, please come. Spirits of within, out space cubes, Archangel Hanael, please come. Okay, and stay standing because we're going to clear the chakras. Just 7 of them, starting with Lamb. So here we go. Lamb. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna pull a card to see, give us a focus for tonight. Next Monday, there's going to be a class at 1 p.m. Pacific time, a free class on this soul portal map. And so we can, if you want to come and you want to, use this and figure out the cycles and what it's all about, and then I invite you to the class on Monday. So this card jumped. Ooh, look at it is. I'm going to stop sharing so we can see the card. So this is the card that jumped. Anybody have an idea what this card is and why it jumped? And if you want to talk, you get to unmute. So if anybody wants to unmute and tell, Marissa, go ahead.
Well, that looks like the Milky Way or some galaxy.
Yeah. So this is pretty big then. We're getting galactic energy coming in. We're thinking about the galactic center, and why not? Because there's going to be a full moon tonight. Not only a full moon, but a full moon eclipse. Okay, so it's like, yeah. So there's a lot of those of us on the West Coast can face west at 4 in the morning, because or even earlier if you dare. But about 4:14, it's going to hit totality, and we're going to be seeing the eclipse for about 15 minutes. But it kind of, the energy stays around it for like 3 hours around that. But you really see totality it's only going to take 15 minutes. And so it's a lunar eclipse. We're going to see the Earth's shadow go over the moon. So it's kind of interesting because where the sun is setting today, where I am, was where the moon was setting earlier this week in the morning at 4 a.m. So it'll be interesting to see the moon setting, because the moon's going to set right after for us on the East Coast. I mean, on the West Coast. I don't know. I think there's going to be too much light out for you, Una. I think but here's a trick. It's going to be too light to really face it and see it. So if you turn your back to the moon and you look at your shadow, you can kind of get an idea of what's happening with this. Or you can just like say, I bet Renee has pictures, and you can look at my page and see a picture of it.
That, and we have clouds. I don't know if we'll be able to see anything.
Yeah, that's true.
Anyway,
We're gonna have clouds, but you pretty much, even when there's clouds at my house, you can still see the moon through. So we'll see. We'll see. Anyway, so the galaxy is with us. So here we go. And so there's a lot of intense energies around the eclipse and around the full moons, but what we're doing is we're working with that energy, not frightened, scared, running away from the energy. If people are running away from the energy, then their life starts to blow up all around them, because eclipses bring change. And if we're like working with the energy and flowing with the energy, then we're just kind of moving along with the next indicated step. And following the guidance of our next indicated step is part of what I think Mary Magdalene was teaching in the Gospel of Mary. So we're just going to strengthen our knowing that we know that our guidance is pure. So we're using discernment for our own guidance. Okay, does anybody have a question or an issue that they want to talk about before we dive into content today? Questions, issues? Everybody's good. Everybody looks good. All right. Okay. So I'm going to share screen then. Okay. So it seems like everybody got a good start with tracking and tracking the rituals and developing your own rituals or somebody else's rituals, or having a spiritual practice. So if you already meditate, if you already do yoga, wonderful, marvelous. If you want to add in anything from this class, for instance, singing the name of the Marys, you can do that. You can add in chakra clearing. You can add in anything that is a spiritual practice. One of you said that washing dishes was a spiritual practice. I bow to you. It's not yet that for me. So here we go. And some of the things you might want to think about tracking. Does anybody want to talk about something that they decided to track? Something new that they decided they wanted to track. Carrie, go ahead.
I decided that I needed to track how I felt energetically within my body, within the multiple layers of my body, the physical, mental, spiritual, emotional bodies. And I still have to figure out how I'm going to track all that. But that I need to check in with those body levels like every day to make sure that I'm staying balanced in those levels, and to help prevent me get another episode of vertigo. I want to prevent that, and right. I'm thinking that tracking where I'm at can actually connect me with more that's going on around me than just one simple problem. I think that there's a lot more that's going on that could be tracked that way.
Beautiful. Yeah, yeah. So yes, just being aware and physical body is like the first layer right here, and then the emotional body is just like slightly up, and then the mental is after that, and then the spiritual body is after that. So if you know the order of those four bodies, then that will help you be able to um, you just like see in your mind as each of these layers around us move out, and you can track that. But one thing that I find helpful if I'm feeling vertigo due to, oh wow, there's so much energy and there's such an expansion, is to pull the energy in and kind of do a root lock and do a contraction, and then do like a grounding. I just really feel my feet on the ground and really feeling the earth, and maybe doing like earth meditations. Like I know that you, Carrie, led us in a crystal meditation one time in Soul Portal Journey's class. And that would be a good thing for you to do now, in my opinion. I mean, it can't hurt.
That's for sure. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, any other comments on what you're now tracking? What you're now sometimes tracking is as simple as putting an X mark in your box. Yay, I did yoga. It's like I have one little yoga mark there. No, but I did yoga on Friday. Okay, all right. Anybody else? Marissa's laughing.
I feel like I'm tracking everything. I've started using my phone as like just screenshotting it. I have to go back and figure out what to do with it, but I figure it's kind of like a digital scrapbook of sorts, so I can see what keeps showing up.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, now that you know that you're using your phone and the pictures in your phone as a digital scrapbook, you might want to take pictures of more things than you were previously taking pictures of, just to like kind of remind you of where you were at and what you were.
I love timestamps, so I can figure it out, follow the progression of the day. And
it's like my journal in images. I know people are moving to that. I can't believe it, but I still love automatic writing. So, I guess I'm old school now. I go back to written journals. Wow, ancient. Okay, so let's see. We have a couple of God stories in the group. Please post your God stories. We talked about this. Okay, now I don't know whether you have, I have this horrible feeling that YouTube is going to shut me down if I play this link that I gave you to this Aramaic prayer. Or the playlist in YouTube has the singing of a prayer in Aramaic with the Aramaic words, and I know that I got shut down for playing somebody else's music before. So, Carrie.
So we can probably just listen to that on our own and just go through the text here.
Yeah. Okay. So that you guys can do that if you have the link. Do you guys see the link in your handout? If you have your handout, you can open it up and click the link. Here's the Lord's Prayer. This is the link for it. This is actually, I think this one might be better. This link would probably be the better one for right now. If anybody wants to hear this and hear this in Aramaic. Okay. And it's kind of, if you remember what the Lord's Prayer in the King James Version is, this is kind of similar themes, similar structure, but really in a lot of ways different. And it starts out saying, instead of starting Our Father, it starts, O birther, Father, Mother, not just Father. So here we've got an integration of both masculine and feminine here. Oh, birther, mother, father of the cosmos, you create all that moves in light. So that's an amazing concept right there, all that moves in light. So instead of our Father who art in heaven, cosmos, hallowed be thy name, we don't even talk about the name except that the name is moving in light. Focus your light within us, make it useful as the rays of a beacon show the way. So we're just feeling light, like sometimes I'll feel a star, like right here, like especially waking up in the middle of the night, being in divine energy and feeling a light. That is like a beacon that shows me, oh, okay, well, okay, now this is happening. Okay, now I'm doing this, and I'm just keep following the way that this little star light inside of me is showing. Create your reign of unity now through our fiery hearts and willing hands. So all of us have a flame inside of us, have a spark inside of us. And it's our job to be aware that this, sometimes it seems like this little tiny spark, but just sending energy and observation and awareness of this, and an awareness that this spark inside of me can expand and expand and expand. So we're aware of the flame inside of our fiery hearts and willing hands. Sometimes I'll feel stars in my hands. Sometimes I'll feel hearts in my hands. Last week during the meditation, I felt eggs in my hand. So willing hands, what's in your hands? I was singing to the archangels. I could feel them in my hands. Your one desire then acts with ours as in all light, so in all forms. So thy will be done is what it says in the old version. And this is kind of much more instead of thy will be done, I'm going to be subservient and do whatever. It's more of an alignment and a unity, creating our desire for our soul's deepest desire and our soul's purpose to be here is what we are acting on. Grant that we need each day in bread and insight. So it's not just daily bread, it's not just material needs, but it's food, it's insight, and it's light. So it's not just what this body needs to fuel itself, it's also the light that we need to be holding within us, because that's sustenance for the call of growing life. Then this is instead of talking about sin and leading us into temptation and evil, it's talking about loose the cords of mistakes binding us. So the word, when Jesus spoke, the words, it really means binding, tied in knots. So the word that keeps getting translated as sin in a lot of the biblical translations actually means tied in knots. So I don't know about you, but if somebody did something to me and I can't forgive them and I'm really upset with them, my heart feels like it's tied up in a knot, and my head starts feeling like I'm tied up in a knot. And it's just like, the idea is to untie the knots. And in untying the knots, what is happening is I'm clearing the space in my mind, I'm clearing the space in my heart, I'm clearing the space so that energy and light can flow up and down me. And then we release the strands we hold of others' guilt. So it's like some people do some really awful stuff, and it's not saying that what they did was okay. It's not saying, oh, it's okay. You can mess me up again. You never have to see people again that really hurt you. Of course, if they're your family, you get to work it out, and it's part of karma. But anyway, just the whole idea of holding on to, my mother did this, she was such a bright light, I was in her shadow. I held on to that one for years, and it's just like seems absolutely ridiculous to me now. But because I was the one that wasn't free. Don't let us enter forgetfulness. So I think lead us not into temptation is don't let us enter into forgetfulness. I know that there are times in my life when I just wanted to close down, numb out, hide, bury the light inside me. I didn't want anybody to see. I wanted to walk around invisible. And I just wanted to forget that I was a soul in the body and that I was here to be a light and all of that. And I forget that I had a connection that I could access to the divine just by my intention and my willingness to actually follow the guidance once I hear it, which is actually what I signed up for anyway. But don't let us enter forgetfulness, but free us from unripeness. So if we're like running around half baked, so one of the things that Mary Magdalene is going to help us do is get to a state of ripeness instead of running around, mostly ego, in a state of unripeness. From you is born all ruling will, the power and the life to do, the song that beautifies all, from age to age it renews. Amen. And then these are the closing sentiments after the Lord's Prayer. Sometimes we can hear them. Truly power to these statements. May they be the source from which all my actions grow, sealed in trust and faith. Amen. Okay, so that is a little different than I learned it when I was in catechism when I was 7. Anybody want to make a comment on this version of the Aramaic? This is the translator, Neil Douglas Klotz. Aramaic, of course, is the language that Jesus spoke. We don't know what, dialect or how he sounded or how he pronounced. That was 2,000 years ago. The pronunciations probably changed. But this translator has, talked to 2 different Christian communities who speak Aramaic, and he kind of came up with a version of Aramaic mixed in with a little bit of ancient Hebrew to kind of get an idea of what Jesus may have sounded like. So if we are trying to follow along in this version that has the actual Aramaic, this is the translation of this Aramaic, do not feel like, oh my gosh, I cannot pronounce this correctly because, hey, the translator may not be pronouncing it correctly. So we're just doing the best we can here with what we've got with the indication. And I know that my ears are not as good as they used to be, and I don't always hear all the letters. So I could be going along trying to copy this person for a long time, and then all of a sudden just get into the spirit of this and just be saying stuff. And I'm like, okay, that wasn't exactly what this guy was saying, but it felt really good. It felt like I was, in an inspired place saying it. So you have my permission to mispronounce any of this. Okay, Carrie.
It seems so much more poetic and so much more beautiful than the version that I grew up, you know, that I learned and that I'm used to. And I can see the correlation, you know, in some of these phrases, but it just takes me to whole new places. And I feel like I can get a whole lot more out of studying this. And it really appeals to me. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Carrie. Yeah, I had the same reaction. This just felt like a whole bunch of openings, like something that I'd heard a lot of and thought I knew. And then I hear this version and it's just like, oh, and different, it opens into different ideas and different feelings in different places. Marissa.
What, just like Carrie just said, it's so much more in a loving, it feels like it really is coming from a place of divine love. When I'm thinking about the other words, I'm like, wow, that just, you kind of feel like you're, it makes you feel like it's a reminder that you are not like God, and not that I feel that I'm like God, but that even the connection isn't quite there, that we are in a different place than, you know, the divine, and we are just human.
Right.
When we have that divine energy, which I feel a lot right now, you know, come through us, and that just so much more a beautiful way. What's really jumped out at me is loose the cords of mistakes binding us as we release the strands that we hold of others' guilt. I mean, I know, like you just said a little bit ago, holding on to so much, and like I can see myself, and I think I will literally do this, is actually you know, unbind something, or just loosen up some cords of something somewhere, something, or maybe on some clothes, I don't know. But I just, and not to enter into forgetfulness. I mean, I'm blown away, like, at how much this is speaking to me right now. Like I feel I've been enlightened.
Yeah.
It's really wonderful. Really wonderful. Thank you so much for this. This is awesome.
Yay! Yay. So this is where we want to be, this feeling of being enlightened as we come into close proximity to Mary Magdalene, who is not separate from us. And, you know, we've been taught, you know, just by these translations, we've been taught separation. We've been taught that, hey, Jesus and Mary are they're these great, you know, amazing saints, and we're these little sinners. And so that I know I felt a lot of guilt and shame for years over that stuff. You know, not feeling allowed to be human, and so not doing a whole heck of a lot, you know, just kind of staying in a little box. And that's actually not what I feel is my sole purpose here anymore. I don't feel my sole purpose is to stay in a little box trying to be good. So I don't want to assign bad motives to, you know, the powers that be that I feel kept me in this little box. I'm just going to take responsibility for staying in a box way longer than I needed to, could have, or whatever. And I'm just brave enough now to step out of that box and say, okay, well, what is really going on? And what did Jesus really say? And what is this revealed scripture? So, okay, anybody else want to comment before we move on?
Can I say one more thing?
Mhm.
Okay. Earlier today, I was thinking to myself that I was wondering why Mary Magdalene had stepped up to introduce, or have you introduce me to her? Because about a week or so before you announced, or I saw the announcement for your class, I had watched an introduction to another, it was hosted by the Shift Network,
I saw that. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, so I watched the introduction to that, and I was really considering taking that class. So like, well, I didn't know any of this stuff about Mary Magdalene.
Mhm,
I never even thought to connect with her, really, to be honest,
mhm.
And so then I started to think, wow, this is really interesting. So I was going to sign up, but when I saw yours, like literally like that same day or really within 24 hours, I saw your post. So here I am. But yeah, so I'm really excited now. And that I feel now that she's going to help me loosen those cords.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's show us the way to liberation, baby. I wasn't kidding when I said that. That wasn't like exaggeration. Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes marketing language makes you feel like something's going to happen that's not going to happen. But yeah. So yeah, she's all about that. And you just told a God story, Marissa. It's because when you like you put it out there that you want to do something, and then boom, you start seeing it everywhere, because there are a lot of Mary Magdalene classes out there, and you just start, so I'm glad you're here is the point of all that. Okay, so I'm going to move on unless somebody says no, wait. Okay, so one more thing I wanted to briefly talk about in Mary Magdalene's life was this whole thing. She's holding an egg here in this picture. Does everybody see her holding an egg? She's holding a white egg. Okay, and so back in the first century when Jesus had, resurrected, and Mary was going around talking, and the person who was in charge of the Roman Empire, in charge of the whole Mediterranean, basically at that time, was Tiberius Caesar. And she went to his court holding an egg, and she was explaining, using an egg, the resurrection. And Tiberius Caesar said to you, I no more believe in the resurrection than I believe that egg in your hand is going to turn red. And so then, of course, it turned red immediately. So then Tiberius Caesar was like, whoa. And everybody standing around in the room was like, whoa, hey. Because they knew something was up. They knew miracles were happening, but they didn't understand it. And, but it wasn't until quite a bit later with Emperor Constantine that the Roman Empire went Christian. But I think this little miracle here started the ball rolling, in my opinion. Okay, so here, that was just one little story that I didn't get to last week that I wanted to. And now we are back here. We are now looking at the Gospel of Mary, and where this conversation is taking place, Jesus has already gone through the crucifixion, gone through 3 days, or at least metaphorically, and came out of the tomb and resurrected. He was, people could see him, people could touch him. Like a lot of us can feel, like I know I can feel Reverend Millie Landis around me, but I can't see her. I don't see her, like she's big, but I can't see her. But people could actually see Jesus walking around after his resurrection. And then, so the setting of this Gospel of Mary is Jesus was in the room teaching all of the close students. And notice I'm saying the words close students as opposed to 12 male disciples. Okay, that's what we learned. We learned there were 12 male disciples, and they all went out and disseminated the same exact message, but because there was one message. And we're discovering that there wasn't one message that was disseminated, that was Orthodox that went out, and they were all the same. There were many, many different messages that went out to different places in different communities, did different things with based on their understanding. What Jesus was saying, we're just now finally catching up to 2,000 years ago, 2,000 years later. So can you imagine that at that time, people trying to figure out what in the heck? So, so Jesus is teaching all of his close students and then leaves. And Mary is gonna tell the story next. But right here in this part, one of the students asks, we're missing 6 pages. Chapters 1 through 3 are lost. And so just imagine what conversation may have been happening before this. So there might have been, because it picks up, will matter then be destroyed or not? So my imagination jumps into, oh, okay, they're talking about the spiritual world, they're talking about the spiritual plane of existence, and they're talking about the world of matter. They're talking about, I am not this body, I am spirit, I am light, I am energy. Okay, so what, what about matter? What about when everybody is living on the spiritual platform, will matter be destroyed or not? That might be a question if that was the conversation, but we don't know. That would be a pretty volatile conversation. If I was Caesar, I would want all those pages ripped out if somebody was going around saying that. But who knows? Because Hinduism said that kind of stuff. There was, Hinduism was constantly predated this and was saying that we are not this body. We are part and parcel of Krishna or part and parcel of Vishnu, depending on what branch of Hinduism we're talking to. So this question, will matter then be destroyed? Now, I included a free version from the internet. This was one of the first translations to come down the pike when, and this is, right after this was found. This was like one of the first versions that got translated into English. And yet I'm hoping that some of you looked at your another translation of this and see that perhaps stop. Okay. That again, there's been mistranslation. Again, there has been an opportunity to see things. Here we go. Okay, so here we're using this as a basis, and I'm going to read that. I'm going to let you know that Jean Laloupe, which is one of the other translators of the Gospel of Mary, says this a little differently. Right after the missing pages, it says, it starts, what is matter? Will it last forever? The teacher answered, all that is born, all that is created, all the elements of nature are interwoven and united with each other. All that is composed shall be decomposed. Everything returns to its root. Matter returns to the origins of matter. Those who have ears, let them hear. Okay, so we're right here. So one of the things that Megan Watterson who wrote Mary Magdalene Reveals, always wants to bring our attention to is all creatures exist in and with one another. So I'm going to bold that right there. So that's kind of like the central idea to this. So it's not really saying, oh yeah, matter's going to be destroyed. Instead, it's talking in depth about matter and spirit and all creatures. When I started contemplating this phrase, like, so key phrases that my teachers will bring my attention to, I contemplate for a while, and I started to hear things like all creatures exist in and with each other. So the first thing I realize is, like, my poor cat is a creature. And, instead of making humans superior to all animal life, I am like starting to realize I have species, I don't know what it is. I feel like my species is somehow superior to other species. And so then I decided, okay, well, my cats obviously have no thumbs, so they didn't develop tools. And so parts of their big frontal lobes didn't develop. So, but what is that the only value? My cats have amazing hearts and spirits. And so all creatures exist in and with one another. So I stopped being so species smug and am looking at my cats, and and you know what, they're angelic sometimes, and they're little demons other times. They're just kind of like humans. And yeah, they have their cat qualities, and then they have their angelic qualities. So that's what I'm noticing there. And then there was somebody, Megan Watterson, was talking about how angels have voices because of us. And that just kind of made me feel like, oh yeah, because we're taught that humans are below angels, that angels are above us, right? And so we're just more of that separation. And so to feel like we're on earth, and we are the voices of the angels. Angels, if we don't recognize that we have wings, how can the angels have wings? If we don't say, oh yes, I have wings and I can soar, how can the angels? So that was I'm still wrestling with that. I'm still working with that one, but that's kind of an interesting thing, coming back to all creatures exist in and with one another. I'm not better. I'm certainly not better than the angels. I'm certainly not better than my cat. I'm a human. I have this big brain that humans haven't even figured out how to friggin' use yet, which is why we have issues, in my opinion. So we're dealing with, I'm not better than, less than another human. I got that. When I finally got that, I started looking at, all the creatures on the earth and all the creatures in the heavens. So I really, this whole idea, this whole ego idea of better than, less than, is starting to melt more and more and more and more. And this is one of the powers that Mary talks about, is one of the things that we overcome as we expand more and more into more love. Any questions about this? Okay, so we're going to keep going. He who has ears, let him hear, is something. It's like, okay, it's like opening our spiritual ears. So what we're talking about, we're not, we could use the word, I'm developing my clairaudience, and oh yes, I'm clairaudient, and I can go around feeling all like I'm all that. But what it really is I'm using my spiritual senses. We all have spiritual senses. If we want to develop our spiritual senses, we can, and we can use, we were just alerted that something was said, and we better, like, if we were just kind of kicking back, thinking that we were saying pass the salt, we better go, oh, wait a minute, what did they just, something's happening here. What did he just say is going on? Oh, all creatures exist in and with each other. Doesn't mean just those words, doesn't mean just what I think it does. It's an invitation into a larger spiritual senses. So every time we hear, he who has ears, let him hear. That's kind of what's going on. So then Peter says, since you have explained everything to us, tell us also this, what is the sin of the world? So I kind of want to go and talk about what LaLoupe is saying. Peter said to him, since you have become the interpreter of the elements and the events of the world, tell us, what is the sin of the world? The teacher answered, there is no sin. It is you who make sin exist when you act according to the habits of your corrupted nature. This is where sin lies. This is why the good has come into your midst. It acts together with the elements of your nature so as to reunite it with its roots. Okay, so we just in the Lord's Prayer found out that there's not even sin. And so even these translators are still using that word. That's actual translation is untying of the knots. Okay, so we've got another dimension of untying the knots, which is why I wanted to present the Aramaic Lord's Prayer before we got into this, so that we would see that the word sin here in the Gospel of Mary is still being mistranslated, and Jesus is trying to explain there is no sin. Okay, yes, culturally everybody's having this whole grand idea, and because you guys believe in sin, you see all kinds of things. You know, we just look at the news. We see all kinds of things. So okay, so we become sick. Okay, then he continues and said, that is why you become sick and died, for you are deprived of the one who can heal you. Okay, so let's take a minute and say, okay, healed. Okay, we can be surrendered to one who can heal us. If you're going to breathe into that and feel that we can surrender into the one who can heal us, body, mind, spirit, emotion, spirit, body, mind. He who has a mind to understand, let him understand. So here we've got this is why you become sick and why you die. It is the result of your actions. What you do takes you further away. Those who have ears, let them hear. So I know that when my cravings, one of the powers of the ego, one of my cravings for alcohol took me way away from where I was. I was on the board of a church and I was doing all this stuff and I was volunteering and I was doing Sunday service meditations and all kinds of things like that. I was really active. I was really in there. And then I chose to drink on Saturday night instead of be present to go to church. And the minute I made that decision, it was just like boom. It was like making a decision that takes me further away from my connection, from my center. And it took me years to get back, to find my center again. And I'm not unique. I mean, a lot of people do that. A lot of people, it may not be alcohol that takes somebody away from their center. Okay. So the next part, mind understand them. Matter gave birth to a passion that has no equal, which proceeded from something contrary to nature. Then there arises a disturbance in the whole body. Okay, that is why I said to you, be of good courage. And if you are discouraged, be encouraged in the presence of the different forms of nature. He who has ears to hear, let him hear. When the Blessed One had said this, he greeted them all, saying, peace be with you. Receive my peace unto yourself. So that's incredible right there, that we can receive the peace. Receive my peace unto yourself. And for me, peace is, okay, all of these knots in my mind and knots in my heart are untied because I'm being granted peace. So for me, that's what peace means to me today, right now. Beware that no one leads you astray, saying, lo here, lo there, for the Son of Man is within you. So that there's a lot of people saying, oh, okay, I got it. I got the way, I figured it out. I got the whole thing. I took this, I've got the transmission and here we go. And, come over here with me, go over there. It's over here. It's over there. Following this religious path, this spiritual path, blah, blah, blah. And really what we're being told here by Jesus, according to Mary Magdalene, is the Son of Man is within you. And this Son of Man can also be translated as the integrated human, fully divine, fully male energy, fully female energy. The integrated human, the integrated child of God is within you. So we can feel that. Follow after him that's inside you. Those who seek him within will find him. Go then and preach the gospel of the kingdom. So this is the last words that Jesus is telling his close students, the disciples. Do not lay down any rules beyond what I appointed you, and do not give a law like the lawgiver, lest you be constrained by it. And when he said this, he departed. So I don't know about you, but I think there's been a whole bunch of laws created on top of the Ten Commandment laws that we adopted from the Old Testament, that there have been a whole lot of laws and rules laid down that weren't intended to be there. So this is a message that they're being called to go forth, and I think it's a message of love, and it's a message that says that this is within us. It's within all of us. Okay, so that's that chapter. And we're going to do the next chapter before we get into the powers next week. So read in whatever translation you have, read that. I'll assume everybody has their books. If you don't have your book, you can get some bad translation off the internet like I just did and copied into this. But anybody have a question? This is, all creatures exist in and with one another. This is how I'm seeing that right now. I'm seeing it as a kind of a unity, a kind of a many hands creating a heart. Anybody have comments on what we just went through in the first section that we have available to us in the Gospel of Mary?
I have a question.
Go.
What is the next section that you're going to ask us to read?
Okay.
If we just read chapter 4, what is the next section that you're asking us to read?
Okay. So the next section starts with blah, 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 blah. He departed. Okay. Oh, so he departed is the last part of this. The next section starts with the disciples were in sorrow, shedding many tears and saying, okay. So the next part, Jesus is gone, and now they have to deal with, oh my God, he left, and I'm supposed to go out and do what? What? So that's where
Okay.
the next part comes. Is everybody clear on what we're going to read for next week? Una, you had a comment?
I just thought that part about do not give the law, like the lawgiver, unless you be constrained by it, was interesting. I found an interesting insight this past weekend. Actually, it came in through my husband, that about the parable of, not the parable, the prodigal son, which I had never heard it that way. That in the explanation, it was saying how, like, everyone thinks of the son who returns as the sinner because he's committing all the
Right.
kind of obvious sins.
Right.
But they said that the brothers, by holding the law, that if you're to by the letter of the law, that also is a sin. So that is kind of in line with this, that
yeah, Jesus actually was in the face of a lot of Jewish law.
yeah.
When throughout the four gospels that made it into the canon, he's out there, saying, well, he's not following the letter of the law, and it's pissing people off right and left. Yeah.
And it makes just with with the spirit of it and not the letter, like the people that are quote unquote the pillars of the society who are
Right.
by being in their righteousness, they're in the wrong.
Right. Yeah. And and it's not just Christian communities that this happens to. I was, involved in a group, based in Hinduism, and there's like a message, love Krishna, period. That's it. And everybody's like saying, oh, how should we fast, and how should we give devotion to the deities, and how should we do? And I'm like, I couldn't listen to how they were going to fast anymore. So it was beautiful. The rituals were beautiful, but I didn't want to follow them. I wanted to follow the way I wanted to follow. So anyway, I'm not in that religion anymore. But I learned a lot of really good Vedic philosophy. So I do appreciate that. And I got a longing for something they understand in Hinduism, which is that the male aspect and the female aspect of God are working together, moving together as one through all the stories. And we've had this work version during the patriarchy, you have just the male coming through, and it's the male energy and the female energy. So we've got Krishna and Radha, we've got Lakshmi and Vishnu, we have all of these pairs in Hinduism. And I'm like, wait a minute, how come there's no pairs in Christianity? And then I started to realize, well, there is, it's just kind of been cut out. And so we've got Jesus and Mary in the Christian story as the pair.
I don't know if I need to raise my hand. I don't know how to do that. So
yeah, all you do is I see that you unmute, and then I call on all the people that are unmuted. So go ahead, please.
Okay. Yeah, this is really exciting and interesting to me. I come from a Christian background, like a lot of us, but then when I was reading the Bible and different forms of the Bible, I came to a different understanding than what I was taught, And so I like this. This is a different way to think about what he taught. And it's like, for me, like when he talks about matter is destroyed, I immediately thought of it has to be destroyed so that we can come together, and that, for me, sin has always been, well, in the past 20 years, it's been, it's that which separates us from God.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, I like that. I like that as a definition, because it goes right in with the forgetfulness. Don't be forgetful. You got to. The whole point is to stay in alignment, stay in loving devotion to divine, with divine source, knowing we are we are put a part of that.
Yeah. Anyways, I really I like that different Lord's Prayer, because it did open. I mean, I interpret the Lord's Prayer different than most Christians, but that even opened it even more, for me.
Yeah. That I was. Thank you for sharing, Janice. Thank you. They need some things to think about. I really appreciate that everybody here is sharing. So we're going to go into a meditation, and it's going to have to do with the tree of life, and it's Mary Magdalene's tree. Jesus says to her in the section that's coming up, there is a great tree within you that does not change, summer or winter, and its leaves do not fall. Whoever listens to my words and ascends to its crown will not taste death, but know the truth of eternal life. And I just misspoke, because this is not from the Gospel of Mary. This is from the Gospel of the Beloved Companion, which is not authorized by scholars, because the translator would not produce the original thing that she translated it from. So, but it's very similar to the Gospel of Mary, and it has to do with trees and limbs, and it just resonated with me. So right now, we're going to be doing tree pose, since we're about to do a tree meditation, and we've been at this for more than an hour, and we need to stand up and stretch. So I thought this would be the perfect stretch. So if you need a chair, if you need to lean against a wall to do tree pose, that's fine. You do not have to do tree pose like the amazing, have your knee up thing. You can have your foot against your ankle and be doing tree pose. So do tree pose however you can, and however your body wants to balance. You can, hold on to something. You can shake out a foot. You can put your thing, and you can put your hands on your hips. Feel your balance. Feel the leg that is solid on the ground. Feel that this leg that is on the ground is a root taking you down into the earth, planted. And the other foot is free. All of your energy is in the one foot that's planted on the earth. Feel the groundedness of this foot on the earth. And when you feel really grounded, you can take one hand and put it up. And then if you still feel like you have balance, then you can take the other hand and put it up, as if your arms were branches. And then you can bring your arms down, and then they can go up again, as if the branches are filled with sunlight and you are holding all of the sunlight branches. You feel all the leaves of the tree, and then you come down again, and you bring that energy up to the top of your tree and feel the sun shining on all the leaves of the branches. And coming down. And now stand with both feet on the ground in mountain pose. If you know, mountain pose is just 2 feet on the ground, 2 arms at your sides, and feel the groundedness of feet on the earth. and know that what Jesus was saying divine source is within each of us. And our intention, we can set our intention to stay in alignment with that which is within. Okay, and now we can get ready for our meditation. We are going to sing. We can slowly, we can have your journal and your pen next to you for after the meditation. You can imagine a gorgeous tree in amazing light, tree of eternal life. We can meditate on the first limb of love and compassion of Mary Magdalene's tree. But first we are going to singing in the song of prayer that's going to help us sit in the power and the presence, sit in that alignment. We are asking for help. But we have to ask. We don't just automatically get. We have to ask so that whatever we ask for, we become aware of. We already have everything we need. If we feel like we don't have it, we have to ask for it, and then boom, it shows up. And we're like, oh, yeah, it's always been here. So we're asking so we can find. We're seeking so that we can find. But it's some seeking and finding, we already have it. So here we are calling in the angels to help us, and then we're going to go straight into the meditation. All of you who know this song can sing along. If you just printed it out, you can sing it with us as you learn it. There are angels hovering round. There are angels hovering round. There are angels hovering round. You are welcome if you come. You are welcome if you come. You are welcome if you come. To carry the tidings o'er, to carry the tidings o'er, to carry the tidings o'er. Angel friends, assist us with thy blessings. Help us every good increase. Save all life from distressing to love's never-ending peace. We realize the power within is greater than all outside opposition. We will be what we will to be. Watch your words, watch your thoughts, watch your actions. So as we inhale, we see that there is a forest in front of us. And this forest has many trees. And we decide that we are going to walk into this forest as we see the sun shining into the forest. And we go towards that light. And we follow a path, following the light. And we see a woman standing by a tree. And we wonder, and we wonder who she is. And as she turns and looks at us, we know. And she invites us to look at the first limb of the tree of eternal life. And we see it, we see the light shining on it. And we are invited to touch that limb, the limb of love and compassion. This is where the message begins. If you have not love, you are a noisy gong or clanging cymbal. And we are standing, touching the pure love. And as we look and listen to this amazing woman in front of us, we wonder if she would like to tell us something. Tell us something about how we can bring in more of this love of who we truly are and know that we are this love. And Mary has a gift for us. She wants to place it in our hand. How does this show up for us? And we decide how we want to keep this gift, where we want to keep it, where we want to store it. We ask, how can we use this gift? And now we say thank you. And we look at the tree and we ask, how can I return to this tree, to this limb, whenever I need to, whenever I intend to? And when you know that you can return to this place of love within you anytime, then slowly open your eyes and see with the eyes of love, and pick up your pen and pick up your journal or your paper, and you can write anything that you feel you need to write. Okay, continue writing if you are moved to continue writing. If you would like to share, you can unmute and share anything that you feel comfortable sharing at this time. You may want to wait and share in the course community group after you've processed it a little more, or you may want to share now. So I'm looking to see if anybody wants to share at this point.
Yeah, I'd like to share because I'm not going to be here next week. You know, this happens to me a lot. I don't know why I don't do it more. Just think of how much love I've been given freely, you know, and that's what the first limb was like. I touched it and there was, you know, God was giving me love. I mean, Mary was there with him. It was free, and I always have a problem that is true for me, you know. But it's, you know, and then Mary, you know, she kneels at my feet to give me this gift. And I'm just overwhelmed that it would be given to me. And I know also that, you know, I understand that it's to be given away too. I have to give it for it to exist. And that's something that I count on. I need help with. And so I need to ask for that.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So in this class, we gave you permission to ask for it, and we gave you space for it to happen for you. So I'm very grateful that you are here, and I'm grateful. Thank you so much for sharing. And please, you know, if you don't come back to this class, please find a space where you are given the space, where that you are given time, that you are held, so that you can you know, connect, so that you remember to ask. You know, I'd love to see you back here, but you know, find a place where that happens, where people aren't trying to tell you what to think and what to believe, but are helping you open your own door within, helping you with your own access, knowing, okay, yes, I know how I can access this myself. Okay. And then you just strengthen that over the next few weeks.
Thank you.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you so much. So much love going to you, Janice. Thank you. Okay, if there's anybody else that wants to share now, they can. Otherwise, we're going to move on, and you can share after you've processed a little more. So this is pretty intense, you know. You really feel love, and you've been starving for it. It can be really, really intense when you feel it. And so it may take a little processing. You may have more words for, you know, the experience tomorrow. So just kind of we're going to sleep in an eclipse and waking up with an eclipse. So it'll be interesting to see what happens and what people share tomorrow. So I don't see anybody that's like, yeah, I got to share now. So I'm going to share screen again. And we're going to go We did that. We did that. We journaled. We shared. Okay. Now, while I am reading this next bit, this was the book. I know, Una, you have it. You can read along. We're in chapter, I'm going to read chapter 42 of this book aloud. I didn't ask you to buy it because we're only reading chapter 42 of this book. This is the tree. It's very, very similar to what the Gospel of Mary goes through 7 powers in the Gospel of Mary, and goes through 8 limbs in the Gospel of the Beloved Companion. But grace and beauty of spirit isn't really a limb. It's kind of more where you end up. So here it's I kind of think a little bit of these as chakras. And it's like there's the crown chakra, and then above the crown chakra there's chakra 8 and chakra 9. And so we're definitely up in grace, beauty, and spirit. By the last one, we're definitely up, up above the crown. So, and as we were saying last time, the judgment and wrath are the challengers, or in the Gospel of Mary, they're called the powers, judgment and wrath, and how judgment and wrath transforms into love and compassion. I spend a lot of time in my classes on Monday helping people move from judgment. At first, I was teaching about judgment of other people and judgment of people in politics, and then I'm realizing, it's self-judgment is really what is keeping us from fully embracing the love that we are. And so moving out of judgment and wrath into loving compassion is something that Mary is able to do. So it's like moving from ignorance to wisdom, arrogance to humility, weakness and illusion and fear into courage, voice of the world to clarity and truth. This one, voice of the world, really hit me when I started quoting from Corinthians 13, saying the noisy gongs and the clanging cymbals. We hear a lot of that mistranslation of the Bible and other holy scriptures in the world. But all of the holy scriptures do contain clarity and truth. It's just that we're hearing them with the voice of the world, and we want to hear them, with a voice that the divine within us. Truly know your own soul, power, and healing, free of darkness. So just like self-knowledge, Socrates said, know thyself. So self-knowledge, awareness moves us into power and healing. Being free of darkness moves us into light and goodness. And then there's flames in this that she moves through. So you can, as I'm reading this, you can see where she is, where she's moving through this. And anybody have a question before I start reading this?
I don't have a question, but this right here goes with what I got during the meditation. Mary Magdalene told me I can climb the tree and ascend to heaven. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Woohoo!
Not necessarily just like literally, dying and going to heaven, but going through different stages. And as we go up and higher and through the trees, we are closer to heaven. And I'm getting so much right now from.
And there's yes. So so we absolutely can climb the tree. We can ascend. And I'm going to remind everybody that the more grounded we can stay, even though this is like really intense stuff, the more grounded we can stay, the more of this expansion that we're feeling right now we can hold. So we're in a kind of an expanded state right now, and we want to pull it in, and we want to feel the grounding. So when we were doing tree pose, I spent a lot of time talking about feeling our feet on the earth for a reason. because this is really heady stuff. And as we get the further up the branches and we get into these heaven and earth, heavenly realms, we have to realize that right now in this body, yes, we do not have to die to go to heaven. Yeah, that's like a mistranslation. Heaven is here and now. And the more we can ground and pull it in, instead of being like, our mind blown, we're pulling it in and we're grounding it. And the more actions we take out of love, the first one, the more we can ground the rest of the tree. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. Okay, so we are now, yes, I am now reading chapter 42. This is, in my book, Una, it's page 77, 42.1. And in this book, Mary Magdalene is called the Magdalene. And Jesus is called Yeshua. And Mary Magdalene is also called Miriam. Or actually, so anyway, that's kind of complicated, but that's who we're talking about. The Magdalene answered and said, "What is hidden from you, I will proclaim to you." And she began to speak to them the words that Yeshua had given her. Okay, so now Mary Magdalene is speaking to all of the close students. "My master spoke thus to me. He said, 'Miriam, blessed are you who came into being before coming into being, and whose eyes are set upon the kingdom, who from the beginning has understood and followed my teachings. Only from the truth, I tell you, there is a great tree within you that does not change, summer or winter, and its leaves do not fall. Whosoever listens to my words and ascends to its crown will not taste death, but know the truth of eternal life.' Then he showed me a vision in which I saw a great tree that seemed to reach onto the heavens. And as I saw these things, he said, 'The roots of this tree are in the earth, which is your body. The trunk extends upward through the 5 regions of humanity to the crown, which is the kingdom of the Spirit. There are 8 great boughs upon this tree, and each bough bears its own fruit, which you must eat in all its fullness, as the fruit of the tree is the garden caused Adam and Eve to fall into darkness. So this fruit will grant to you the light of the Spirit that is eternal life. Between each bough is a gate and a guardian who challenges the unworthy who try to pass. The leaves at the bottom of the tree are thick and plentiful, so no light penetrates to illuminate the way. But fear not, for I am the way and the light, and I tell you that as one ascends the tree, the leaves that block one from the light are fewer. So it is possible to see all more clearly. Those who seek to ascend must free themselves of the world. If you do not free yourself from the world, you will die in the darkness that is the root of the tree. But if you free yourself, you will rise and reach the light that is the eternal life of the Spirit.' And as he said these things, I felt my soul ascend and saw the first great bough that bears the fruit of love and compassion, the foundation of all things. And I knew that before you can eat of this fruit and gain its nourishment, you must be free of all judgment and wrath. When you have freed yourself of these burdens, you may eat of the fruit and so gain the love and compassion that will allow you to pass the first of 7 guardians. And I heard the voice of the Lord of wrath calling to me, but I denied him, and he had no part in me. So I saw my soul ascend again, and he showed me the second great bough, weighed down with the fruit of wisdom and understanding. And I saw that before you can taste of its bounty, you must be free of all ignorance and intolerance. Only then can you eat of the fruit and so pass upward unhindered through the second of the 7 gates. And I heard the voice of ignorance call to me, but I knew him not. And so my soul did thus unchallenged. Then my master showed me the third great bough, which bears the fruit of honor and humility. Only when free of duplicity and arrogance may you partake of its nourishment. And arrogance called to me, saying, "You are not worthy, go back." But my soul was deaf to him, and so moved onward and upward into increasing light. And then there came the 4th bough, blossoming with the fruit of strength and courage. And I heard him tell me that to eat of this fruit, you must have freed yourself from the weakness of the flesh and confronted and conquered the illusion of your fears. And the master of the world stood before me and claimed me as his own. But I denied him, and he had no part of me. Only then, my master told me, when you have rejected the deceiver, can you pass through the hardest gate of all to attain the 5th bough and the fruit of clarity and truth. Only then will you know the clarity and truth of your soul, and knowing yourself for the first time, understand that you are a child of the living spirit. And as my soul moved upward, I realized that I could no longer hear the voice of the world, as all had become as silence. Then in the light above, I saw the 6th bough, the one that bore the fruit of power and healing. My master told me that when you truly have eaten of the fruit of the clarity and truth of yourself, then could you partake of the fruit of power and healing, the power to heal your own soul and thereby make it ready to ascend to the 7th bough, where it will be filled with the fruits of light and goodness. And I saw my soul, now free of all darkness, ascend again to be filled with the light and goodness that is the Spirit. And I was filled with a fierce joy as my soul turned to fire and flew upwards in the flames from whence my master showed me the 8th and final bough, upon which burned the fruit of the grace and beauty of the Spirit. And I felt my soul and all that I could see dissolve and vanish in a brilliant light, in a likeness unto the sun. And in the light, I beheld a woman of extraordinary beauty, clothed in garments of brilliant white. The figure extended its arms, and I felt my soul drawn into its embrace. And in that moment, I was freed from the world. And I realized that the fetter of forgetfulness was temporary. From now on, I shall rest through the course of the time of the age in silence. And then, as if from a great distance, I heard the voice of my master tell me, "Miriam, whom I have called the Magdalene, now you have seen the all and have known the truth of yourself, the truth that is, I am. Now you have become the completion of completions." And thus the vision ended. This is what my master has told and shown me, and only from the truth I tell you that all that I have received to you is true. And when the Magdalene had told of all that Yeshua had said and done, she fell silent, since it was in that silence that Yeshua had spoken with her and revealed these truths. Okay, so that was really, for me, that was really powerful. And I'm just wondering how you guys are taking it. I read this aloud last year and it was not nearly as powerful. But then I've been meditating on this tree for the last year. So I think I understand it a little bit better. But I'm just wondering how you guys are taking it. And if you have any comments, if you have any concerns, if you want to share anything, if you want to ask anything. So I'm looking to see if anybody unmutes.
What really, what stood out to me is to free myself.
Yeah.
I think I've spent a lot of time trying to find an answer somewhere, or for someone else to show me how to do something, and I'm like, yay, I'm ascending.
Yeah,
To
yeah.
free myself, it's entirely that just puts the responsibility that I'm taking responsibility for
Mhm.
me and my growth, like
Yeah.
growing like the tree, my own growth, really establishing my roots so
Yeah.
that I don't topple at any point, because my roots are so strong and long.
Right, right. Beautiful, beautiful. I love that for you. Great, great takeaway, Marissa. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Beautiful. Anybody else want to share where they're at after this? Una, you actually got to read this as opposed to just listen to it. Yep. You have anything you want to contribute?
I just had such a long day. I was just kind of taking it in.
Oh my gosh, it's
And,
midnight for her. Oh my
yeah, I can't
Okay.
collect myself right now.
So,
I'll
okay.
write something in the.
She's gonna write tomorrow in the group. So yeah. So if you're still, I'm sorry I bothered you. Go back to sleep before the. Anyway, she wasn't asleep. She's telling me she wasn't asleep. Okay, so she's okay. I'm gonna hear her whole thing tomorrow because she's gonna post in the group tomorrow. So anybody curious about what Una has to say, please check out the group. Her posts in the group are really, really good. Okay, anybody else before we move forward? I want to make sure everybody's okay. So I'm going to make sure that we're all Carrie, go ahead.
I was really struck by the don't forget part of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you could have forgotten, and that could have been the sin that you committed.
Mm-hmm.
That could have been how you defined that. But for you to move forward, you have to remember. And it almost sounds like you have to be responsible for what you really know. And that really hit me out of the whole thing.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you, Carrie. Kisses to Carrie. Good takeaway, Carrie. Yeah. Okay, now I want to make sure everybody is grounded before we leave. So your homework is basically to do what I know Una's going to do tomorrow, which is post, how does Mary Magdalene's climbing of the tree and facing the powers or the challengers? It's really in the Gospel of Mary, she faces the powers. In the Gospel of the Beloved Companion, she faces the challengers. So she moves the blue words in the tree are like the expansions, right? So that's what I'm talking about. And that she moves into all these expanded states as she moves up as she climbs up the tree. How does this relate to your own soul journey? I'm hearing a lot of people recognizing that, yeah, we're responsible for our own growth. So we're going to answer this question in the community group. And so does anybody, this is the homework to do before Monday, May 31st. So send me an email or post in the community group. If you feel like you don't want everybody to know about it, that's fine, but then email me. So these are your choices. But I want to make sure everybody is grounded before we close. So everybody put your feet on the ground, and we're gonna feel our feet on the ground, feel the roots of the tree, feel the roots of the tree move into the earth. Know that we are planted, rooted, grounded. Feel the Mula Bandha, feel the Kegel exercises, the root. You're holding your root chakra. You're like holding it closed. You're like, you feel like in your heart, put the shoulder blades together. Feel a constriction in the throat. Feel your eyes above, and you're like holding the energy of the expansion. You're moving into a contraction. By moving the energy of the expansion we just had and moving it into a contraction into your body, you're bringing it more within you. You're bringing it more within your body, and it's not going to show up in your outer world like some car accident or something, or broken ankle, or things that have happened to me. So you just want to have some contraction of the expansion we just had, so it doesn't show up in your outer world in a left field. It's just more fruit and more energy for your own spiritual growth. So we're grounding what we just did today. Is everybody understanding this whole, Janice, are you understanding this grounding process? Everybody thumbs up if you're understanding the grounding process that we're doing. Okay, so I think you're still muted, Janice. Are you?
I just need to clarify what that means again, because I understand grounding, but I don't see. So the experience that I've had is internalized.
Yeah. So basically, what happens is that everybody had a like an aha, like wow. Everybody had an experience, right? And when you have a big experience, you could, luckily nobody's driving home, right? Because you could get in a car accident on the way home when you're in the middle of an expansion, right? The police could stop you and say, have you been drinking tonight, ma'am? Luckily we're home, right? But I'm just saying that for every expansion, there is a contraction. And if you don't want any icky, yucky stuff happening in your exterior world, like broken ankles and, stubbing your toe and, if you stub your toe, it's like, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, I'm still in this body. I'm still in this physical world. I still feel pain. Okay, I'm saving you the toe stubbing right here by telling you to bring in this energy into your body to do this. For every expansion, there is a contraction, and we want to pull this energy in to feed us, to inform us, to work with, to help us, to kind of, it's fuel for the flame that is within us, that we know is within us, and that we are learning to see by. Because next week we're going to be talking more about seeing with the eye of the heart. And part of that is knowing that you have what really feeling within you, so that you can really see with the eye of the heart. You really feel the flame within you. Okay, is that making more or less sense? Or did I talk so much that it's just like, now I really don't know what she's talking about? Or are you better?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, in order not to be out in the spiritual world, which I'm here on earth, I need to ground myself.
Right, because Jesus was fully divine and fully human. And so we're in bodies right now, so, and we're all human, and we're all, so we all have both. We're, and we're trying to integrate we're all fully human, fully divine. We all have giving and receiving energies. So we're integrating all of that, which is what we were doing with the contraption. We're integrating the energies. We're integrating all of those energies. Okay. Okay. So Jesus is a way shower. He's showing us the around going, I'm all that, because we're going to get, something's going to hit upside the head if we start running around like that. I know from experience. Trying to save you from that experience. Okay, so here's the homework. Tracking awareness of your sacred rituals. Optional, you can, email me about how you're doing with them. You don't have to do that this time. I really wanted to just make sure everybody was starting to do spiritual practices, especially while you're in this group. And optional God story, optional soul portal map for those people that want to understand what that is all about. Monday class at 1 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. Then this is right here. This green one is your actual homework. It was that question up here that related to what you just went through. What do you think climbing Mary Magdalene's tree, facing the challengers or the powers, and moving into expansion, how does that relate to your own soul journey? I heard a lot of people already have some wonderful ideas. So develop your ideas around responsibility, and that'll be amazing. And then the next section that we're reading, Carrie, made me get really specific for you guys, so you can say, thank you, Carrie. It's right after Jesus departs, and then everybody starts to freak out, and then Mary gets to, tell them, kind of help them out. So she really becomes the apostle to the apostles in this next thing we're going to read. Okay, so here's the post. Here's where you email me. And next week we're going to work on some aspects of the first limb, the way that it's described in the Gospel of Mary. And so we're moving from darkness. In this one, we were talking about the leaves at the base of the tree were darkness. And so we're moving from darkness into expansion into love. And isn't this interesting that we're going to have an eclipse tonight where the moon is eclipsed just before it sets. So that is interesting. So anybody have a question before we sing ourselves out? It's 9 o'clock and we're ready for our song. Okay, so we're feeling each other like we're holding each other. Okay, here we go. In this circle of love, in this circle of peace, in this circle of love, in this circle of peace, I feel our unity, love, sweet security. I feel our unity, love, sweet security in this circle of love, in this circle of peace. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to stop YouTube.